All right, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling how to make a WordPress site on AWS that's seriously secure.
Yeah, we're not talking about just your average security plugin here.
Nope, we're going way beyond that.
We're getting into the nuts and bolts, the architecture, and how to use AWS services for fortress level protection.
I've got the goods right here. A technical log post from the AWS experts themselves and their official encryption best practices guide.
Yeah, the heavy hitters.
Definitely the real deal.
And one thing that really jumps out from both of these, just slapping on a plugin isn't going to cut it, especially on AWS.
Got to be smarter than that, huh? Okay, so color me intrigued. Why all the fuss? We're focusing on DevOps pipelines today, which might sound a little, techie.
A little bit, yeah.
But it matters, even if you're not a hardcore coder, right?
Absolutely. Think of it like this, your DevOps pipeline, that's your website's behind-the-scenes crew, moving code, making updates.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
And often they're handling really sensitive stuff, your site's blueprints, basically. Maybe even the keys to the castle, right?
And this blog post did not mess around. They talk about some seriously bad news if that info gets loose. Like, what are we talking here?
Well, first off, imagine your site just goes dark.
Ouch. Yeah.
Completely offline. No visitors, nothing.
That's bad for business.
Or worse, right? Sensitive customer data, the kind that could get you sued or all over the news for the wrong reasons, it's out there.
Yeah, nobody wants that headache.
And then there's the financial hit, too. Lost revenue while you're down, the cost of fixing everything.
Potentially fines, too, right, depending on what data went out.
Exactly. It could be a whole regulatory nightmare. So yeah, not a risk you want to take lightly.
Okay, convinced security is non-negotiable. But,
Yeah.
the blog post also made a point of saying securing the pipeline itself is different from securing the things inside the pipeline.
Yeah. Easy to miss that, but it's important.
So what's the difference, and why should we care?
Okay, so picture a fortress, right? Securing the pipeline itself, that's building the walls, the moat, all of that.
The fortifications, got it.
But securing within the pipeline, that's what's happening inside those walls. You could have Fort Knox.
Right, but if the guards are asleep on the job.
Exactly. It's about training them, making sure they're vigilant, they know how to spot an intruder and what to do about it.
So you really need both for true security.
You got it. It's a 1-2 punch.
Makes sense. You can have the best tools in the world, but if you're not using them strategically...
It's like leaving the keys in the lock.
Exactly. Speaking of tools, let's talk about the first line of defense, Secrets Manager. And let me tell you, after reading this blog post,
Oh.
I'm feeling a little sheepish about all those passwords I have written on sticky notes.
Let's just say Secrets Manager is a much better system.
I'm all ears. Tell me more. Okay, Secrets Manager. It's like the ultimate digital lockbox, right?
Exactly.
Instead of my sticky note system, which I'm officially retiring, by the way.
Good call.
And I'm going to just put all that sensitive stuff in Secrets Manager, and it's safe.
You got it. Think about it this way. The blog post, they said leaked database credentials. That's a top cause of WordPress sites getting hacked.
Yikes.
Yeah, not good. But Secrets Manager, it solves that. Instead of those credentials just sitting in your code where anyone could find them.
Right.
You keep them locked up tight in Secrets Manager, so even if someone got their hands on your code, they wouldn't be able to do anything with it.
Oh, that's smart. Like a separate, super secure vault, just for the really important stuff.
Nicely. And what's cool is how they use CloudFormation to make this whole process automatic.
Okay, how so?
They had this code example, basically. When they set up the WordPress site, CloudFormation, it grabs the database password straight from Secrets Manager. So the actual password, it never even touches the code itself.
Whoa. Even I can tell that's some clever engineering.
It's elegant, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And even though I'm not a coder, the main takeaway there is super clear. Keep your secrets passwords, API keys, all that separate from your website's code.
100%. Out of sight, out of mind, and out of reach for the bad guys.
Love it. So we've stashed our secrets in our digital Fort Knox here, but are there rules, like any don't forget to lock the vault door moments we should be aware of?
You know it. They had a bunch of best practices in the blog post, but for someone setting up a WordPress site, a few really stand out. First up, IAM policies.
Okay, remind me what those are again.
Sure, think of it like this. IAM policies control who can access what inside your AWS account.
Permissions, got it.
Right, so it's like deciding who has the keys to our super secure vault and who doesn't. Then automation.
Ah, right, because even the best system can be messed up by human error.
Exactly. Which is why you want to automate as much as possible, less room for mistakes. And they specifically mention using tools like CloudFormation for this.
Makes sense. Less for us to mess up.
Right, exactly. And for the extra cautious out there, the blog post mentioned CloudTrail, which is basically a security camera log for your AWS account. It tracks who accessed what, when really useful if you need to investigate any suspicious activity.
Ah, so even with all these safeguards, it's still important to be, like, actively checking things out.
Always good to be vigilant. It's all about layers of protection.
Okay, so we've locked down our secrets with Secrets Manager. But something tells me there's more to this security fortress, right?
Oh, yeah, we're just getting started. Now that our most sensitive information is tucked away in Secrets Manager, let's talk about making the data itself unreadable without the right key, Fort Knox style with AWS KMS.
Okay, AWS KMS, we're encrypting data. Fort Knox style, that definitely has a ring to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest, encryption still kind of sounds like, spy movie stuff to me.
Yeah, I get it. It can seem a little intimidating, but it's really just about making your data way more secure.
Okay, so how does it work?
Think of it like this. We've got Secrets Manager, right? Our high-tech vault for those really, really important keys to the kingdom.
Right.
AWS KMS, it's like making the entire room that vault is in, like, totally impenetrable.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
So it's not just about locking the vault door, it's about scrambling the information inside so that even if someone got in, they wouldn't be able to understand any of it without the right key.
So even if they somehow got past Secrets Manager, they just see gibberish.
Exactly, just a bunch of random characters. And both the AWS guide and that blog post, they really stressed how crucial this is for your WordPress database especially.
Makes sense. The database is like the heart of my WordPress site, right? All my posts, all the user info, comments, everything's in there.
It's a goldmine of information, and you definitely don't want that falling into the wrong hands.
No way. So we're talking about encrypting the database. What else?
Well, the really interesting thing is it's not just about the database. The AWS guide talked about using KMS to encrypt a whole bunch of stuff. EBS volumes, that's where your website's operating system is stored.
Like,
ECR, which stores your container images if you're using those. Even S3, where you might keep backups. It's about having this, web of encryption protecting everything.
wow. So we're talking about building an invisible fortress around pretty much every critical part of our WordPress site.
Pretty much. And one thing they were both very clear about. When it comes to KMS, customer-managed keys are where it's at.
Customer managed keys. Okay, please tell me that doesn't mean I need to become a cryptography expert now.
No, not at all. It just means you're the one in control of those encryption keys. You decide who has access, how they're managed, when they get rotated. It's all about maintaining that control over, the keys to your kingdom.
I like the sound of that. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about our setup so far. We've got Secrets Manager keeping our super secret info locked down, KMS encrypting our data. Anything else we need to worry about?
We've covered a lot, but there's one more big piece to this security puzzle. So we've got the data itself locked down tight, right?
Right.
But we also need to secure the pathways between all the different parts of our website. It's like, imagine all those conversations that are happening behind the scenes.
Okay, yeah.
We need to make sure those are totally private, no eavesdropping allowed. That's where AWS Certificate Manager, ACM, comes in.
ACM, keeping those connections secure. Got it.
Mm.
So we're making sure all that back-end communication is, top secret.
You got it. Think of it this way. You wouldn't want just anyone listening in on your online banking session, right?
Definitely not.
Same principle applies to your website visitors. ACM makes sure the conversations between their browsers and your server are encrypted, so things like login details, payment info, all that sensitive stuff, it's protected.
Makes sense. It's
Yeah.
like all of a sudden it's all clicking into place now. And that blog post did a really good job of breaking down exactly how ACM does its thing. They had some really clear examples.
Yeah, they did. They talked about using ACM to secure the connection between CloudFront and the load balancer. So that's like the very first handshake, making sure the visitor's browser is talking to the right traffic cop on your site.
Got it.
Then, from the load balancer to your Kubernetes pods, that's about directing them to the right department, so to speak. And get this, ACM can even secure the communication between the pods themselves and your database. It's like end-to-end encryption.
So it's not just about securing the room, it's about securing the hallways leading to and from it too.
Yeah.
No chance of anyone sneaking a peek.
Exactly. And the real heroes here are TLS certificates. Think of them like digital ID cards for your website.
Ah, yeah, TLS certificates. I've definitely seen those before, but Refresh my memory. What do they do again?
They verify your website is the real deal, not some imposter trying to steal info.
Right, right. Important stuff.
And the best part, ACM takes care of all that certificate stuff for you, so you don't have to.
Nice. I can always get behind less work.
Who doesn't, right? But, we've covered a ton of ground here. Secrets Manager, KMS, ACM, and they're all super powerful tools. But one thing both the blog post and that AWS guide really emphasized was that security isn't just a one-time thing.
It's a journey, not a destination, right?
Exactly. It takes ongoing effort, vigilance.
And that's where CloudTrail comes in, right? Keeping an eye on everything.
Precisely. It's like having a top-notch security system in your house, right? You wouldn't just set it and forget it.
Definitely not.
Mm.
Got to check those cameras now and then, especially if something seems off.
Exactly. CloudTrail lets you do the same thing for your AWS environment.
And on top of all that, let's not forget what the AWS guide said about defense in depth. It's about layers of security, right?
Absolutely. You could have the world's strongest password thanks to Secrets Manager.
Which, by the way, we all should. No more sticky notes.
Agreed. But even then, if someone can just bypass your firewall altogether, that strong password doesn't do much good.
Okay, that's a good point.
That's where things like a WAF, a web application firewall, come in. It's like having a security guard checking IDs before anyone even gets close to the front door.
So it's not just about having one really strong lock on the door. It's about having multiple locks.
Exactly, layers. And maybe the most important takeaway of all this is security, it's a journey, not a destination. Keep learning, keep adapting, stay curious, especially as new threats pop up.
So true. Well, to our listeners out there, remember, building a secure WordPress site on AWS is totally doable. You've got the knowledge, you've got the tools, and you've got that spirit of vigilance. Now go forth and build a site that's as secure as Fort Knox and maybe even a little bit smarter.
Well said. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.